Remember in the last video when I said the owner brought some Super D DUPER glue to glue the rubber to the frame of that Peterbilt to keep it from moving, and I said I have my doubts? Yeah, big waste of time. I wanted to go to the machine shop and have them bend me up a channel in a U shape and then drill it and rivet it to the bottom of the tank, and then that would hold the rubber from moving in and out. But he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to take the time. He said his glue would hold. Well, the glue's not holding, so now he's in a panic because the rubber's falling out. So this is very unfortunate. This is why I don't build trucks for people. Well, I'm gonna hurry up and throw this together. I am not gonna spend any time on this. I'm gonna cut this old truck frame with this little bitty ridge on it. I'm gonna cut this down into 12-inch increments. I'm gonna make 8 of them, and I'm gonna drill a hole from each end, 1 inch in, and he can drill the side of the main runners and he can install them. That's more effort than I really need to be putting into it. I'm not priming it, I'm not painting it. I'm gonna do this and drop it off. I wonder if I should make them longer than 12 inches since I got so much material to work with. Yeah, maybe I'll go 2 feet. I got plenty of old truck frame. You know, or I could make them 12 inches and just make more of them, but that's more drilling. Because if I do it 2 feet and you put a bolt here and a bolt here, a 3/8 bolt, that ought to be adequate. If you did that 2 feet, it's 20 foot long, you put 4 on either side, then that's 8 feet plus the brackets. Yeah, we'll try them 2 feet. So the idea is the tank has a piece of C-channel comes up and down like this, and then the rubber's underneath it. So my thought is we put this hanging down slightly below it, and it can be turned either way to hold the rubber. Out or in, doesn't matter. I just want that lip for just a little bit of strength. That's all. Now I'm gonna go drop them off, and I'll give you an update and let you know how many he actually put on. My guess is 2 per side, and that's it. See what you guys think, and we'll see what happens. You know, a couple weeks ago, the owner took a Peterbilt because he just said he couldn't wait any longer. He just had to have it, and I told him it wasn't done. And I told him it's on you, dude. Do whatever happens is on you. He insisted on taking this. We didn't have the fittings for the airbags. Well, the fittings for the airbags came the next day. So they've been running it without the airbags. Oh yeah, and it's not a 4,500 gallon tank, it's a 5,000 gallon tank. So another 1,000, let's see, 500 gallons, another 4,000 pounds. It's 40 some hundred pounds, 4,500, something like that. They've been running without the lift axle, of course, so they're backing up, and it was squatting in the rear because it was so heavy that literally they drove over the mud flap and bent the spring for the mud flap, so that's destroyed. It's bent, it's ruined, and it's got some other issues unrelated to me. That the thing where it just shuts off sometimes, that's become more prevalent. Whatever. I'm just so aggravated. It's got an antifreeze leak. Looks like the radiator's leaking. I can smell the coolant. You can see the pile there, you can see it dripping here, and something wrong with the turbo. I think the boot between the turbo and the intake is blown out, got a hole in it. And what else do I have to do? I got to put a front bumper on it of some sort. He wants me to just take angle iron and just extend this out here. I mean, just as easy to make a couple mounts and put a real bumper on instead of that, but it's not my truck. Whatever. Frustrating. I'm just gonna do what I gotta do to get it done, get it out of here so I can get back on my stuff. I think I found the problem with the turbo. Looks like the boot between the turbo and the intake is blown out. So we'll get this taken out and I'll see if that's what it is. That sure is what it looks like. Well, I have pulled this and squeezed it, and the one way I move it looks like it may possibly have a leak, but I don't think that's our noise. I'm wondering if it's not here. Look at this. This is the air intake horn, and look, it's a metal gasket, and it's split here. It's been silicone reused, and it's split here. It's split here. And you can see the boost blowing out of here. This is more than likely our problem. We're going to go ahead and replace this anyways, but I believe this is more than likely our issue. Let's get a look at the top of the intake over here. Yeah, you can see it's blown out right there. Like there was some part of a gasket, you know. And this is an air cooled, or not an air cooled. This is a liquid cooled air charge cooler. So the way it works is the exhaust comes out of the engine, spins a turbo, and when it spins the turbo on that side, on the other side is the intake. So the air comes in the turbo on this side. The exhaust is spinning and spinning that turbo, creating pressure. Well, because it's getting in contact with that hot turbo, the air gets hot. So they run it through an air charge cooler to do just that, to cool the air that's going into the motor before it hits the motor, so that you get more complete combustion, because you get fuel atomized better with cooler air than you do warm air. This oil line's pretty rough too, so if they have that, I'm gonna grab it. So they had the gasket, they had the boot, but they did not have that oil supply line in stock. So we'll have that in a couple days. So we'll put that on once we get it. But it is leaking oil from every place it can be. And then I just noticed this up here. We got some antifreeze. I know the radiator's leaking at the bottom. I don't know if the fan is blowing it back this way, or if there's a leak up here for the coolant. I don't know. It's a shame that the guy driving this hasn't said anything about a coolant leak when it, you know, the front end ends up wet and there's puddles underneath it and you can smell it. You know, this is like a double-edged sword. The more I look, the more work it needs. You know, I just whatever. Let's take care of this. I'll clean that up. There was more layers on there than I realized, but I got it all cleaned up and flat now. I put a straight edge on it just to make sure it hadn't been torqued or bent or anything, but I think we're okay. So these are the bolts that I took out the top, and there's nothing wrong with the bolts themselves, only the fact that, you know, there's no lock washers, no thread lockers. There's nothing to stop these bolts from coming loose that it vibrates and rattles, and temperature change. So we're gonna go ahead and get some lock washers and flat washers to put on it. Then we'll put it back together. I got it all cleaned up now. Yeah, this one's too short now, so we're gonna have to change it out. I'm gonna go a little bit longer. You know what? I'm just gonna go longer with all these bolts, because I don't think these are original bolts to the truck. There's nothing underneath this that I'm fearful of hitting, and I'm only going 1/4 of an inch longer, which is just the thickness of these two, or a little bit more. I don't know what this torque spec is on this, see if I can find it online. So the source of the antifreeze leak that we've seen dripping is, I don't know if you can see this in here, but I've confirmed it is the core on the radiator that's actually leaking. So it needs a radiator pulled out, redone. And as far as these go, there's that coolant leak right up in here I saw. That's coming from up here at these coolant hoses, which need replaced. And I told them it's just time to replace all these hoses on this truck. You know, just replace them all. They're all aged. You know, better safe than sorry. It's got a busted bolt right there for the manifold. But you know, I can only do so much, man. I got things of my own that need to be done. So we're gonna just do this and move on. We're done here. I wanted to replace these two clamps, but they didn't have them, so I went ahead and ordered them, and we'll see if we get them at the same time we get the oil supply line. We'll put that in. But for right now, this part's done. We're gonna move on to the rear where they ripped the mud flap off. I gotta fix something there. So I'm done under the hood. I moved back here to the lift axle and I installed the airbags. Everything was ready to go. I just need to bolt them in place and then just actually, you know, hook up the plumbing. And I've already tested them, and it airs up quickly and it exhausts even faster. It works very well. He says when this truck is loaded, right now we have about 6 inches between the ground and the bottom of this tire. When he's loaded without this lift axle down, it drops to 2 inches. Those airbags have 5 inches more of travel than the original airbags on the other truck. That, with the fact we dropped that down 4 inches, we should be okay, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it. I have to fix this mud flap because they ripped the other one off, so we're just going to take and cut a section off the top of this one and move it up, re-drill it and move it up. I had them scale the truck. I was thinking this truck was going to weigh in somewhere around 22,000 pounds, and we weren't far off. The front axle weighed 7,800 pounds, I think it was. 7,800 pounds on the steers and 13 something on the rears. So we're like 22,000 pounds. The tanker loaded is almost 42,000 pounds additional. So you're basically sitting at like 63,000 pounds. Well, legally, this truck, the way it's set up and the bridge laws, if I understand it correctly, the steer can have 12,000 on it because that's what it's rated for. These two drives can have 34,000 combined between the two, and then this one and this one between these two can have 34,000 as long as we have dual tires back here. So with this being that weight, this thing needs to have 4 tires back here because that's 34, that's 12 on the steer, so that gives us 46, and we need almost 20,000. We need that 17,000 because 46 and 17 makes 63. So we really need those 2 extra tires on here to carry that load, and that should make it okay. But again, when we were doing this tank I was told was a 4,000, well, originally it was going to be a 4,000 gallon tank. Now, then it was supposed to be a 4,500 gallon tank. Now it's a 5,000 gallon tank. So this tank alone, or the contents of the tank, is almost 42,000 pounds. So it's pretty heavy. So next thing I want to do is, I'm not putting another mud flap over here because the exhaust from the pump just blows on it. It's going to melt it. And again, they've ruined this, so I'm just going to take this off. It's worthless. And I'm just going to we're going to make a bracket, weld something on here, and then put a piece of metal here, and that will be our mud flap, I guess. Best we're going to get. So I needed a frame to put either the mud flap or the sheet metal on. So I found this 1.5 by 1.5, 1/8 inch thick angle I had, and I just cut 2 45s in it, heated up and bent it to a 90 with a speed square. So that's going to come up here. Now I wish I had something with a little bit longer leg on this side, so we may add something up here as a gusset, but that will help to hold what we have. And I just wanted to get an idea if my length was going to work. This height is not right yet. I have to cut that to length. But in here, I want to radius this so it matches in here, and that way we can weld here as well as right here, which will definitely help with the twisting of this. So I'm thinking about adding this. I'm just not sure if I want to add this angle. You know, it was angle iron. I just matched that profile. I don't know if I'm going to add it here or, you know, like this on the inside. I think I like it out here better. This means more work. I'll have to bevel that to weld it. But it'd be much stronger, that's for sure. Yeah, let's go with that. So what I've decided to do is to run a piece of metal up this way and bend it. I'm gonna come up on an angle like this and then bend it straight, and we're just gonna give it a few welds on the outside edges all the way around, just as a heat shield, and that'll give us an airspace. And I'll put the mud flap back here, so we'll have this 1.5 inch airspace from the metal, the exhaust hitting, and the mud flap. So I've got this clamped in here because I need to bend that, and I don't have a brake, so this is going to be my brake for now. And it's not going to be great. It's going to be all, you know, cattywampus because I don't have an even way to push pressure on this, but we'll give it our best. I got it clamped into place. This bend's not quite great, but it'll have to do. I left this long because this is really thin, and I figured if after I get the weld on, I'll go ahead and cut it off afterwards, because that give me a little bit more for the heat to travel in, so it won't maybe burn the top edge off nearly as easy. Got the bottom in there flat. Not going to be a lot right here, but doesn't matter. I'm going to flap disc it and roll the edge anyways. Alright, I got it spotted in. I don't think I'm going to grind it. I think I'm just going to leave it alone. See what I mean about burning through? That was pretty thin there to begin with, but it'll just have to do. Alright, now I'm going to take a plasma cutter and just cut across the top of this and thin it down a little bit. I don't know if it's really necessary, but that was my intention. Alright, that part's done. I got to thinking about it, and I went ahead and flapped that edge off a little bit because it was kind of sharp. I'm not going to take any of that off. I'm just going to leave that. I think it's fine. But I didn't want anybody to get caught and, you know, get cut on that edge. Okay, so next I need to lay out the holes for the mud flap and get it bolted in here. It shouldn't be too difficult, really, I don't think. I did go ahead and flap that edge. I think it looks better than the bare welds. Mud flap's on now and mounted. So we've actually raised that thing 3 inches from where we were, because the top of the arm was right here in the middle, and then it dropped down below that for the actual hanger. So we come up over 3 inches, so that ought to be adequate, because we have probably about 12 inches now, and yeah, that'll just have to do. I'm not going to prime and paint this. I don't have time to go through the steps to do it, because there's so much more work that he wants me to take care of that there's just no time for that. It's just gonna, look, he'll have to deal with it, you know. I have far too many more important things to move on to, so let's get at it. So I just got back from the owner's place and picked up these steel racks. We're going to use this to weld something up to hold the rubber in place, and I took this bumper off of the other truck with the bad frame. It's not great, but it's better than angle iron across the front, so we're gonna see if we can make this thing work somehow. I have to cut the snowplow brackets off though. All right, so these are the plates that I made a couple weeks ago, and we've now put them on. He had 2 of them on, I think, and I made 4 for each side, so he put all 4 of those in, as well as made this Z channel. We had some old angle iron at his house, so we went, got it, and I cut it apart. We made this Z channel, and what it's doing is basically sandwiching the rubber. It's in here like this, up against this C-channel here, and then the bolts are drilled and matched, so it's sandwiching it together. And then these pieces that frame, you can see, are pushing the rubber in this way, and then this leg holds it from going anywhere else. So it should be adequate to hold it. I'm just not certain if there's enough of them. I'm thinking we're probably gonna have to add one right in here, because I think it's gonna keep falling out. But we're under time restraint here. He's got to have the truck back on the road. I only got today to work on it, so that's what it's going to be. And I got to get a bumper on the front, so I took the plasma cutter and I cut that 1-inch plate or 3/4 plate, whatever that was. It took several passes, but it cut it, and then I just dressed it with the grinder and cleaned it up so we can mount a bumper to the front of this now. So I'm laying out this bumper. So I found the center and found where my holes need to go for these brackets. So there's 2 top brackets, then 2 holes in that bracket are supposed to go on the inside holes, well, on that side, the inside bracket, and then the 2 outside ones would go on the outside. The problem being, we don't have these other brackets to come out this way, for one, and even if we took it off the other truck, they'd be 3/4 inch off. So it really doesn't help us any. I could take this stuff off, but if you look how involved this gets on both sides. It ties in all the way up into here, way back, and then I got to take the hood apart and take it loose and adjust it. And I just don't want to do all that. I think it's never bad adding metal to the front, that's for sure. But my brackets won't line up. Those 2 holes, as you see right here, are meant to go. You see how that bolt is basically needs to be moved over this way, and that's this bracket. So these 2 holes are not right. So I'm going to have to move this hole over, because there's a hole in the bumper that comes through the bumper, through that, and then through these 2. And I hope it's going to be long enough. I didn't consider that. I may have to get some bolts. Anyways, point being, they don't line up. I'm gonna have to do something, and I'm not gonna go get them other brackets off the other truck, because this is already 3/4 difference. It's not gonna work. So I think what we're gonna do is take that plate, get it set up here, get our holes correct, and maybe just put a weld here and a weld here on this bracket, because that bracket, those bolts that are there, these are panhead and Allen's, and they go on the bracket like this. They go on the bumper like this. So you have to bolt those in first, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. And if we just weld it, I think we're good as gold. Steel is much easier to drill through than truck frames. So this is how you break annular cutters when you're trying to cut open a hole like this. So I don't have a lot of choice. That's 2 layers of metal, and I really don't want to sit there with a carbide bit trying to oblong this to make it what we need. So I'm going to go slow and gentle, and hopefully I don't break the bit. You gotta be careful towards the end, because that piece will come unlodge right when it's cut through, and then bind up and break the bit. Right there. It fell out. Nope, there it is. So that'll get lodged in there, and it'll let me get a magnet. There we go. Yeah, so this piece right there get lodged in there, and it binds this up, pushes it this way, and breaks the bit. So we made it through one. Let's see if we can make it through the other. Got it. We didn't break the bit. Got lucky that time. Okay, now we'll try the other one. Fingers crossed. See this line right here? This is where he caught that front corner of the bumper and pulled it this way, so it's not going to line up great. There. Oh, there's a bracket. Oh, that's interesting. So it's hitting the frame bracket back there. So I've decided to go ahead and plasma cut a hole out. You can see right here what we're against. The bolt comes in and it hits this and kicks over to the side, and you can't get a nut in there and a washer. So we're going to take and cut here down, make a big U here. I'd take this out, but again, it's bolted all through everything here. I don't want to fool with all that. So, especially when this is really just like backup, because this is really what we're mounting to. This is nothing now. All the strength is in this. It's far better than this pre-bent thing here, the bracket. So, yeah, I'll just take plasma, come down here. I'll try and get in down here as deep as I can. Try and cut it as clean as I can. That way we can get some tools in here, because I'm still going to have to get a wrench, well, a socket or something to tighten that bolt up, because it was very difficult on the other truck as well. So just wait for the air compressor to pump up. I think my tires are here for the square body C10. I hear a truck backing up. Next step is I'm not going to touch that because it's still hot, but I got to make sure that there's nothing hanging over the edge of this metal for our bumper to sit against, because if it sits against this stuff here, then when I tighten it, it's going to make a dimple right there. I mean, it's still a used bumper, but one day he'll put a new one on maybe, and I don't want any of this. There's a little high spot right there, just barely a little bit right there. So we'll get that ground off real quick. So now we got to see if we can fix this, or at least get it better. It's not going to be perfect, and it looks like judging by the kink right here, he's caught it and pushed it right there. So I guess what we want to do is get something we clamp to the bottom of this and clamp to the top, get some leverage, and kind of twist it back and push it and see if that can help. If not, I got a certain 24,000 pound blue machine that'll fix it. Well, it ain't great. It is better. Just need to go back some. If you want to bend something, you got to use something bigger and tougher than what is bent. That ain't so bad. Alright, so you can see it's out. See at this fender, it's about an inch out to here. It rolls around, covering it. It's a little more than an inch here. It's not quite in. It just covers it, but it probably should be in around here another 1/4 inch. But, you know, I think we're going to stop there because we're fighting this. You know, the metal's been stretched, and I don't want to have to cut that and weld it. So I think we're going to call that good. It's better than it was. It ain't fantastic, but it's a bumper. Since he took this for a day, he took it home, did some plumbing. He drove it home. It's, I don't know, maybe 15-20 minutes away. And the rubber didn't come out at all, but I'm still concerned about this location right here. So I think I'm going to make a couple more of these and a couple more Z brackets for the inside. And we may not put it on, but at least we'll have them. I mean, common sense tells me just put stupid things on and be done. You know, it's like priorities. Do I spend the time on that, or do I spend the time on something else? All right, these two Z brackets are done. I drilled the holes in them already, so now we have to make the outside frame part out of old truck frame. The lip that I've cut off several different projects here, that's all that is. I got plenty of it laying here, so we'll just cut us a little more of this. So we just finished that up. The next thing is we need to figure out why it shuts off randomly. I was talking about that before, where it was in the switch. His driver diagnosed it as a bad relay, so I didn't bother. I just put the relay in, and well, it still does it. So I guess I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on. All right, so sometimes it just shuts off, and you can turn the key on and off a few times. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. What we're going to do is, first we're going to open up that door, because it's hot in here. Open up some windows. do is take this apart, pull the handbrake down, get in here, and start wiggling. Down in here at the switch. And see which would, feels like that heavy cable is loose right there. You guys see that? Look at that. I don't know if that's enough, but we'll look into it some more. We'll let it build some air pressure. I don't know what this is for. It was just a light that was on. All the indicators. This one's low air, we know that. He needs to put labels on these so you know what they are. Oil pressure. No idea what this is. What do you think? You think we found our problem? So the harness was up here, and it's possible it was bouncing around, shorting out, but regardless, we got to take care of that. I don't know if that's a problem or not, but we're gonna fix it. I just pulled that off the fuel solenoid. Can't really tell on the camera what that is. We're gonna take the heat shrink off and get a look at it. Well, I don't see anything there. Looks like it's okay. So we're just gonna clean this up. It's obviously been off before, but not cleaned. So we'll clean that up. Here's the circuit marking. Want to make sure we don't lose that. And hopefully we got enough wire back here that's good to solder on. I hope so. You see the moisture's wicked up into that wire there. Same thing on this side. So I've got to clean it up because that will not solder, won't hold. Alright, so you can use chemicals to do this, or I just take a regular utility knife, go around it, and then spread the wires open after I get all the way around. And spread them apart. Because if there's any corrosion in there, it won't let the solder take. So I splay them out like this, or spread them out. Just keep checking. I hate using chemicals because they kind of work on the wiring. You know, it doesn't stop. If you use some type of acid, then you have to find a way to neutralize it. I think we got it. Let it cool just a bit before I tug too much. Yeah, we got it. Good deal. I got two layers. Well, I soldered it off. Obviously, I got deox, a layer of heat shrink with that insulating adhesive inside it, plus another layer over here. And I just redid that. So now we're gonna get it back in here, get it routed properly so that it's not a problem. Again, this is probably from somebody changing the solenoid and not making sure it didn't rub anywhere. So we're going to do it, and I think we're going to zip tie it as well, so we know we don't have any troubles. Alright, I tightened up this big battery cable in here, but I believe there's still an issue with this ignition switch. Yeah, I think there is. Anyways, I guess we'll just order one, get it coming. I did fix a couple of the lights here too, even though they're not the right indicators. At least now we have turn signal indicators on the dash, and we have our low air indicator that works, even though it's really there's nothing there that says low air. That's a high beam indicator. I have no idea if it works. I don't see a dimmer switch on the truck anywhere. Huh, must be over here. Well, something's wired wrong there, isn't it? I guess that's for another day. We're out of time on this one. But at least we got that done. We'll start it up, make sure it's not gonna... See, it doesn't shut off or anything. We'll let it run a while, see if it shuts off. So this is the air compressor line, goes back to the dryer, and it was just flapping in the breeze. It was rubbing up here on this coolant line. It was rubbing on this oil pressure line here, so I just put it back in some loom clamps here and bolted it in place, so shouldn't be a problem. And this wiring harness down in here, and it was rubbing against these bolts you see here and here. So I zip tied that up. I think next we're gonna go ahead and take this pump off, because this belt is loose and needs tightened up badly. And if I got to take all that loose, we might as well get this pump out of here, because we don't need it. And we're gonna have to put a compressor on it sooner than later. It makes pressure. It's okay. It's just, for as big as the truck is, I think it should recover faster than it does. So we're gonna order a compressor for it, and we'll change that out. But let's get these out of here and get this pump and these brackets out of here. Just make it easier when we go to change this air compressor. It's a good thing I decided to do this, because these aren't even tight. So check that bearing while we're at it. Seems okay. This is an air operated fan clutch. It's driven off the gear drive here, off this pulley. This airline has a solenoid that turns on and off based on coolant temperature, and you have an override switch in the truck. So you adjust this by sliding the hub up. There's slots in this bracket, and this threaded rod goes through the hub and pushes on a plate down here. So as we tighten it, like so, it moves up, and as it moves up, the belt gets tighter. I think that's okay. Go just a little more, make sure. Yeah, I'm good with that. Now we just tighten up all the 4 of them bolts again. And where'd my wrench go? Must have dropped my wrench. Nope, dropped it in my pocket. So then we just make sure we tighten up all these right here. All right, so we are tight. The belt's tight. All my adjuster bolts are tight now. He asked me about the jakes on this. So it has a switch on the dash. Turn it on, and to turn this 3 stages, but it has a micro switch here, but it doesn't have anything else for the jakes. Looks like it had jakes at one time, but not now. So he's not going to be able to benefit from that, but he certainly could. Those belts are good, because this truck's heavy, and jakes would help tremendously. God, this thing just leaks everywhere. The rocker box covers are leaking, the heads are leaking. Yeesh. This turbo line was supposed to be in today, but I didn't hear from him, so I guess we'll have to take care of that another time. But I think for now we're done with it. I think that's all we're going to do to it. I think he's going to come and get it now and run it for a few weeks, and then we'll see what else happens, see what else ends up being wrong with it. But you know, we made a big dent in a lot of the issues and items so far. Whatever. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I take you for a ride in it, but it's getting late, and he's going to come and get it, so it needs to get on the road and do what it's got to do. We still got to get 2 more tires back here, but I want to make sure that this size tire is going to work. I'm not sure. He has more mud flaps at his house, so he's gonna cut 6 inches off one and bolt it on here. So that'll be his gig. I guess that's as far as we get this time. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you on the next one. Every time I see this truck, I get in and look at where the splice is, where the double frame is. I look for any cracks or any rust streaks or anything like that. Anything that would lead me to believe there's, you know, something's not holding up. But so far so good. Haven't seen anything. The owner says he looks at it often. You know, whether he does or not, I don't know, but he says he does. Anyways, on to the next one.